In this video, we'll talk about the problem with excessive managerial perfectionism, the causes of it, and tips for dialing it back for a happier team. You probably clicked on this video today and you stuck around this long because you were overwhelmed with all the praise you got because you were amazing at attention to detail back in your days as an individual contributor. Now, the problem is you're finding that this perfectionism that got you so far is actually the thing that's holding you back. You now think, I might need to change so that I can reach my leadership potential. I'm Emily Haverkamp. I'm a Gallup-Certified strength coach, and I also hold a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. I spent 5 years as a manager learning a lot of lessons the hard way, and I'm hoping I can prevent you from having to learn your lessons that same way. So, perfectionism is not just a personal struggle, it's a management style that it can paralyze your team. According to a study in the Journal of Applied Psychology, perfectionist tendencies in leaders can reduce team innovation by up to 30%. That's a third of your team's creative potential just gone. But here's some good news. There's some strategies that you can employ to help, and I do think also understanding why you do it and the damage it causes can really help you take that step back that you need. So, first, in part one, we're going to understand a little bit more about managerial perfectionism. Let's get clear on what we're dealing with. Perfectionism, it's not about high standards, it's about impossible standards. Research from Harvard Business Review shows perfectionist managers typically exhibit three key behaviors. One, all or nothing thinking. If it's not flawless, it's a failure. Excessive control, micromanaging because no one can do it as well as I can. And then finally, procrastination, delaying tasks until conditions are perfect. So here's what makes all of this so dangerous for managers in particular. Your perfectionism now, it doesn't just affect you if you get a little behind from the procrastination or a little stress from trying to get it just right. It cascades down to your entire team. According to Gallup's workplace studies, teams led by perfectionist managers showed 27% higher burnout rates. So there's some hidden costs to this for managers. Let's talk about what perfectionism is actually costing you and your team. According to research published in the Journal of Organizational Behavior, perfectionism costs the average manager nearly 6 hours per week in unnecessary revisions and delays. That's over 300 hours per year. But the bigger issue here? A McKinsey study found that teams under perfectionist leadership report 42% lower psychological safety. So, what this means is your team doesn't feel that they're safe to come to you when things aren't going right, whether they have a disagreement or maybe they've done something wrong and they need help with the correction. So, then what happens is your team's going to stop bringing you ideas, you're going to stop taking risks, and ultimately, they're going to stop growing. The hardest truth in all this is your team is watching you. When you model perfectionism, you're teaching them that anything less than perfect is not acceptable. So they either burn out trying to meet impossible standards, or they're going to play it safe with minimal effort. Neither outcome builds the innovative, engaged teams that we all actually want. So, part three, now we'll get to the recovery plan. So, here's the good stuff. Here's my 5-step framework for recovering perfectionists. First off, identify what's inside of you that's making you be this perfectionist. So, before we jump into the tactics, we need to identify what's driving your perfectionism. This is where the positive intelligence framework comes in handy for managers. Positive intelligence is a framework created by Shirzad Chamine that he outlined in his book by the same name. He spent thousands of hours researching what holds people back from reaching their full potential, and he found that there's a list of distinct saboteurs that we all have that form a voice in our brain that hold us back. According to research from the Positive Intelligence Institute, most perfectionists are driven by two primary saboteurs, the stickler and the controller. Let me introduce you to these troublemakers. I bet when you hear about them, you'll recognize them right away. The stickler saboteur is obsessed with getting things just right. This is the voice that says, that presentation has a misaligned bullet point on slide 17, the whole thing is ruined. Studies show that 68% of perfectionist managers identified the stickler as their primary saboteur. Then there's the controller saboteur. This is the micromanager who believes if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. This saboteur doesn't trust others to deliver quality work, and this leads to bottlenecks where everything has to pass through you. The key insight from positive intelligence research is that recognizing these saboteurs in action reduces their power by up to 55%. Simply putting a name to that thing in your head that is holding you back, that critical inner voice, that's going to give you the distance you need to say, oh, that's my stickler talking again. So try this quick exercise. Next time you feel that perfectionist impulse kicking in, ask yourself, what saboteur is this? Stickler or controller? Then take a deep breath and consciously choose your response rather than reacting automatically. I use positive intelligence, also known as mental fitness, strategies in my coaching because I have found that just as simple identifying as saboteurs to be one of the most effective tools out there to help people move past the things holding them back. And this is just part of the framework, but it is a really important one. All right, now that we know what we're dealing with, let's move on to some tactical solutions. So step 2 now is define good enough in advance. Before you start any project, explicitly define what success looks like. Research from Stanford's Perfectionism Lab shows that predefining acceptance criteria reduces perfectionist behaviors by 47%. So let's practice. Instead of saying, create the best presentation possible, try saying something like, create a 10-slide presentation that covers our 3 main value points, includes 2 customer testimonials, and can be delivered in 15 minutes. Do you see the difference here? The second version gives you clear stopping criteria. Also, you're not asking your team member to read your mind anymore. Step 3, break the procrastination perfectionism loop. So here's a confession. I used to be the queen of procrastination perfection. I'm still not perfect at this, but I'd like to think that maybe I've abdicated the throne at least. So you know the drill. You can't start until conditions are absolutely perfect. But then you have to panic produce something at the last minute anyway. Research from the Procrastination Research Group shows that perfectionism is linked to procrastination in 67% of cases. So here's my favorite tip to help me snap out of my own procrastination mode. Use the ugly first draft technique. A study in the Creativity Research Journal found that teams who explicitly labeled their first attempts as deliberately imperfect were 41% more likely to meet deadlines and reported 38% less anxiety. You're giving yourself a permission structure for imperfection. Here's why this can be so effective. Research from Stanford shows that the brain pathways activated during editing are actually different than the ones that are activated during creation. So when you separate these two, you're actually working with your brain and not against it. Step 4, practice strategic delegation. According to the research from the Academy of Management, effective delegation can reduce managerial stress by up to 35%. The key is to delegate outcomes, not methods. So try this. Say something like, Sarah, we need to increase customer engagement by 15% this quarter. Given your experience with our loyalty program, I'd like you to take the lead on this initiative. What resources would you need to make this happen? And now, do you also see in this delegation how you've empowered Sarah on your team? It's a win-win all around. So finally, step 5, implement the 80-20 rule. The Pareto principle suggests that 80% of value comes from 20% of the work. A University of Chicago study found that managers who focus on the 20% and consciously apply this principle save an average of 15 hours weekly without sacrificing quality. So ask yourself this, which 20% of this project will deliver 80% of the impact? Focus your perfection energy there, and then you can be strategically imperfect with the rest. So here's what I've learned after 5 years as a recovering perfectionist manager. Perfection, it was never the goal. The goal was excellence, impact, and growth for both me and my team. Think about it this way. Perfection is static. It's a destination you can never quite reach. But excellence? Excellence is dynamic. It's about continuous improvement, learning from mistakes, and bringing others along on the journey. Remember, done is better than perfect. And your team is waiting for you to lead, not to be perfect. If you enjoyed this video today, stick around for my next video to help you improve your active listening.